Morning, guys. Mark Parashi. We'll talk a little bit more about our situation with our society right now and what's going on, and I won't call it politics because I think it's way beyond that, right? It's still happening in our system of politics, but what is being, where we're taking a front and where it's being pushed on us is fascism, right? So that being the case, it's a whole different ballgame. It's the whole enchilada. It's our country. It's our way of life. It's our system that we've had for over 250 years going to tyranny and authoritarian oligarchy and kind of modeled after what goes on with Russia, with Putin, because he is Putin's puppet. And so Russia has basically worked their way into our society, and now we've got a whole fascist state that looks like it's going to be pushed on us. And our life will never be the same. More importantly, your children's life will never be the same. I want you to stop and think about how you were raised and what you had in our country, right? Some people didn't have it as good as others, but in a general sense, our country has been one of the countries that has allowed the world to prosper with our system of democracy and free enterprise system. Okay, that's what makes our country better than most, right? And now you have a whole different situation. The situation, though, is at stake is the fact that our country will never be the same, and if we let this happen, your children will not have the same life you did, right? So keep that in mind. It's very important that you realize the gravity of the situation, and you get out, you protest, you do everything you can to overcome and persevere, right? I believe that he is going to, it's pretty logical, he's got a good case study as far as what he's done in regards to Minneapolis, right? He's went out, he's moved all his troops in there, and he's been just as tyrant and Gestapo attitude and Nazi attitude as he can to demoralize the public. But whether you realize it or not, they're also chewing at that piece of cheese. I've talked about it before, where they're just kind of nibbling at this side, nibbling at that side, and keep it up until they win. They're moving that ball down the field all the time. And it's not just one issue, it's a bunch of them. They're working it methodically towards taking over our country, right? The vote be damned. Our vote and our freedom in regards to that vote and we, the people, are at jeopardy if we don't fight. And that means we have to realize that it may be hardship, that it's going to have to be there. In other words, going through hardship. Boycotting, which means we don't get our little toys, we don't get to have as much food on the table and all that. We need to go to a point where we really need and realize that if we don't struggle in that regards and actually follow through by getting the money out of their pockets, we're hurting, right? Now, over the last few weeks, because this stuff is happening fast, over the last few weeks, they're now working our social media platforms real heavy. People like me that are totally anti and that are totally, I am Antifa and I'm with my voice and how I coin things and everything, they basically throttled my voice so I can't get out. There's another gentleman that I started posting on that was in Minneapolis that's on the front lines of the protesters and everything else and being, what's the word they're calling themselves? I'm doing a brain blank here. You want to call them agitators, whatever. In other words, they're right out front. They're the resistance. That's it. Kyle is his name. And I repost Kyle's stuff, but they've gone into there and they've censored him. They're all over his rear end. None of our messages, mine, goes nowhere. They're using the social media platforms backed by Zuckerberg, Meta, right? Think about all the platforms that we use, that we back up, we have fun with, and we have our conversation, and social media that Meta owns. Right? Zuckerberg is a lot bigger player in the water than you realize because he stays quiet, right? And he's doing his thing. So they've created that Threads as a funnel. It's a funnel. It's a location that we can all scream and yell all we want to, but they keep it controlled. See what I'm saying? I can't cross-post from Threads to Facebook. Okay? It puts the link there, and I have no idea how that acts. Who can see it, how it acts. Here's what they're doing. They're letting me see it and letting me feel like my voice is getting out there, but they're crimping it. And now they're letting me see that they are because they've got this little insight analytics. At the very bottom of the page, there's a little button. You push it and it tells you what's going on with your post. Did it reach anywhere? How many views? How many likes? That tells you if people are seeing it or not. right? Yes, maybe they're getting tired. They don't care because it's getting such a flood of the media and all platforms on the Democratic side. All of our pundits on the left are all trying to do everything we can to get the word out, to make people realize this isn't a joke, right? And so they are now affecting our freedom of speech. I can't get my voice out anywhere. Google is a little bit more lenient in that, and YouTube is not being as, but I'm noticing it there too. I'm noticing how things act, what happens with a post when it gets posted, right? Is it getting out into the stream? And you can see that by how many likes and how many views you have, how many people share it, etc. And it's not just because your voice has them. They're controlling it, right? So in other words, I would like you to share, copy, paste, share, whatever you can do to try to get my voice out there so I can try to break this, right? But it's not going to happen. Kyle's being stunted the same way. They're controlling nothing that I put out. Now it won't go over to Threads. My post was getting propagated when I would post on Facebook, and it would end up on the Threads, right? And all of a sudden now when I post, if it's anything with their little flags, because that's what they're doing, they're just creating programs that create a flag. So if I say Trump's name as an example, or I say Antifa, for example, or I say anything that's negative against that side, my post doesn't go anywhere, right? You understand? And they're doing this control on all our media across the board. It's not just Meta. It's how many corporations have been bought up by the oligarchs. They control it all, right? And so they're manipulating. I almost feel, and this is something that I can do better than most, I have an ability to see patterns. It's just something that's, because I've been training dogs for so many years, I don't know. But I'm very good at sensing and feeling things within the stream and how things are going day to day. I can sense it. I can't explain it a lot of times, but I feel it, right? So right now, because of that control and what they're doing, they're controlling all the media. But here's the thing. Zuckerberg and his guys that are up there playing the big programming game and doing all this, we're a petri dish. We're an experiment. Can they control the masses? Can they control the public through our social media, right? And how we think and how we feel. They've got psychologists back there. They're playing with us. They're tweaking it to try to control us through the social media so we don't even realize we're being controlled. You get it? Okay? And so it's very subtle. It's very manipulative, right? But if they can get you and they can start to channel that the way they want, they win. And we won't even know the difference. We will know the difference by how you're being treated every day. How do you think, right now, in the longest time, I live in California. I live outside of L.A. For the longest time, as long as I can remember growing up, officers that have pulled me over for a traffic ticket or some kind of infraction or whatever, my interaction with law enforcement, I have a very positive attitude about law enforcement because I train canines. I've been around these guys for years. You know, I respect them, I know them, but here's the thing. They've always been totally professional. Right? So the first thing I think about with this attitude of ICE and the Gestapo attitude and going out and just being tyrants, I think about how that affects the law enforcement officer overall in doing his job, because now how does the public view them? Our trust is being eroded. Now we don't trust cops, so we're starting to act differently as far as the civilian that the cops interact with, or vice versa. As the officer comes up to my car, comes into interaction with me, there's a certain attitude that's always been there of respect and kindness when they're doing what they've got to do, right? That kindness and everything will erode, and pretty soon the cop's not coming up to your car and being polite and being nice. He's jumping right to the aggressive attitude. And I'm not saying it's happening totally now. There's good cops and there's bad cops. But in a general sense, that is going to affect the way they do their job on the street. That no longer will be kindness and respect and that kind of an attitude when they interact with the public, right? And it's got extremes. It's got, down here with the motorcycle cop down to the regular officer and dealing with the things that they've got to deal with in their jobs. So that professionalism is being eroded, is my point of view, and that it can be and it will be eroded with time. The more that this tyranny of ICE and that behavior, the Gestapo tyrannical attitude and behavior that ICE is showing is wrong. We all know that, right? Doesn't matter if you're a citizen, you're not a citizen, whatever, all the things that they're doing with the aggression that they're showing is totally unconstitutional. It's wrong morally, it's wrong ethically, and we all know it, right? It's Hitlerism. It's just like it was back in the friggin' days of Hitler, back in the 30s and 40s, right? In the war over in Germany and all that, what they showed their people. Now, the difference is we're not stupid, and we've got history to be able to show us something. If we didn't have that era, imagine that. We wouldn't even know a dang thing about how this would work psychologically on our society, and we would succumb to it a lot faster. We wouldn't even, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't have anything to compare it to. We have a whole part of history of such an atrocity and what happened in that era that we're all afraid of it, right? We know what's coming. If they are allowed to take over our country, do you think it's going to get better? Well, these gulags they're putting out and all these jails they're putting out and how they're treating people behind closed doors, you think it's going to get better? It's only a matter of time until they justify gassing people, okay? Alcatraz Island, how many people have disappeared, right? Wouldn't be hard to throw them into the swamps and let the alligators take care of it, would it? You understand what's going on? And if you don't think, I'm not saying it's whole slaughters, but I'm saying that this stuff is happening, right? The rapes and the whole 9 yards, right? Because they're behind closed doors. And they've said it again and again. If what's happening on video with hundreds of people filming them and they're still doing that behavior, imagine what they're doing behind closed doors, right? Excuse me. I might have COVID. COVID's going around again, guys, just to make sure you're aware of it. We need to get ourselves really being cautious again. I'm wearing a mask when I go out, washing my hands, disinfectant, all the stuff that we were geared up for before, we need to start doing again. Emphysema, all the winter type stuff is out. And we have just such a lack of our resources and everything built up that they've taken out. They've squashed so many institutions. Think about what's going on. It's getting pretty severe. So back to my whole point. My point is that they are right now messing with our social media platforms. We are being manipulated, and it's going to get more and more evident as time goes along, and the people they'll wake up, they'll realize that our voices and everything are being controlled, right? Now through the YouTube and which is Google, it's less. I think Google is more of an American company, and it hasn't been affected that way as much. But on all the meta programs, all the Instagram, Threads, Facebook. Threads is a funnel. It really is. You can see it. You think you're really satisfied because you got all these memes, all these videos coming at you, and it's in the subject matter that you want, which is against the left, against the right. So I see that when I go in there to Threads, right? It made it kind of, they've got all these different subjects. You can join these different groups, and so they've made it seem like that. But that's what they want, to be able to get us all into a spot that we can scream and yell like I'm talking about before, screaming and yelling as loud as you want to, and nobody can hear you. Right? Threads is being used to manipulate us, okay, whether you realize it or not. It feels like a really great place because you're getting all the subject matter that you want in that regards, but look how they're controlling it. I can't take a post from Threads and push it back to Facebook. I can't take a Threads post and try to get the video. It's locked in. See, look at the programming aspects of things and how they're manipulating that feed. That's how they're controlling us, okay? All right, enough said. You guys have a good day, and I'm slowly getting through this. I've been vaccinated several times. I just didn't get the last one they put out, and I think they got a new one this year too. So this stuff morphs. I won't get into the subject of vaccines and stuff, but I'd like to talk about that at some point. But so bottom line, be aware of the fact that we're going to have to go through some real trials and tribulations. You're going to have to buck up, and really get into the boycotting aspect of things and how can we affect these corporations and their money, because that's when things will change. Believe me, we start going after their money is by boycotting and by doing the creative things that we need to do to affect the corporations. They're going to start going, wah, because money is all they care about. That's their whole life. When you build a corporation, it's all about profit margin. Think about it. Have you ever worked for a corporation? It's always about what did you do this month? And they come in and they say, what are your profits this month? They're constantly pushing on you to make more money. It's all about that, right? So we need to hit them where it hurts, take their money away. And then that means we need to suffer, unfortunately, because we won't have the resources, we don't have the things that we want that make our life comfortable. And in that respect, we need to bear down. We need to buckle down and realize that we're going to have to go through some times. Okay? All right, I'll let you guys go. Mark Farashi talking a little bit more about what's going on in our society. Have a good day, guys.